Hey, gals and guys. It's your host, Phil Larson, and this is your motivational high five on loneliness. Let's do this. Welcome back to the short podcast, your motivational high five, where in about 5 minutes we try to get a motivational high. Do you know that this very podcast typically winds up in about the top 150 health-related podcasts all across iTunes, which is the biggest library of podcasts, and that's just so awesome and incredible, and I'm excited. Thank you for helping me get to that point. If you want to help me even move further up, share this podcast with a friend. Or log on to iTunes and give it a rating and leave a review if you like it. I've got some really good reviews lately. I really appreciate you chiming in. Occasionally someone will review it or they'll talk about it on their blog. So, they tag me sometimes in Twitter or they use the hashtag YMH5. That doesn't go unnoticed. I see that and I reach out to you. In fact, you'll be hearing from my next guest, Rin, who included my podcast on a top 10 list on her blog. And she's going to share what she's been learning lately in her own life in a coming episode. If you like the podcast and you want to support it, there are a couple ways you can do that. You can hop onto the storyshop.tv/podcast. There's a blue donation button. Or as some of you may know, if you've been listening from the beginning, I'm a composer and I write a lot of instrumental background music for videos and commercials and TV shows. But some of my music is sold also through iTunes or Amazon. You can hop on there and you can buy my album by searching my name, Phil Larson. And right now there's just one album, but there's more on the way. That's just a win-win way to support the show. You get some music, and really they're some of my favorite songs I've done. So enjoy that. Thank you. Do you feel lonely? It's interesting. Some things occasionally I'll come across that speak to me. And there's an excerpt from a book that I'm going to read here in a little bit about loneliness. And it kind of just spoke to me yesterday when I was reading out of the book. And I didn't even think about it, but oh yeah, coming up in this next week is Valentine's Day. And sometimes it's a time where people feel lonely. So I hope this is helpful. I think loneliness is one of our most commonly shared experiences as a human. I think the reason for that is because at the very core of our being, we innately desire to be in community. And there's some reasons for that as I see it. If the Bible works for you, check this out. If not, it's okay. You could dismiss this part. But before, as the Bible records sin being introduced into the world, God created all these things and deemed them good. And there's one thing, even before things did not go good with sin, God deemed something not good. And he said it's not good for man to be alone. And so after he created Adam, then he created Eve. Or anthropologically speaking, through the development of humans throughout history of time, we needed a tribe to survive. And if we ever got to what these TV shows and movies show as this post-apocalyptic human race where there's not a whole lot of us, but there's a ton of space, I think again we would be confronted with our need to live together. It's like any Lost fans out there when they're stranded on the island and Jack gives this inspirational speech of we're choosing between either living together or dying alone. And really that's the choice. We need to not be alone to survive. And so deep within ourselves, we desire for human touch. We desire for human interaction. The worst criminals, they throw in an isolation chamber and after days by themselves, they go crazy. Or people who as children receive negligent care, we find that they are later in life dealing with something called reactive attachment disorder. We were not meant to live alone. But guess what? We will always battle this loneliness. And we have 3 ways we can approach our loneliness. We can either run from it, run to it, or this third option of you gotta sit with it. And that might not make a ton of sense, but hopefully after I read this excerpt out of this book by Henry Nouwen, it'll make more sense. The book is called The Inner Voice of Love, and this excerpt is called Find the Source of Your Loneliness. Whenever you feel lonely, you must try to find the source of this feeling. You are inclined either to run away from your loneliness or to dwell in it. When you run away from it, your loneliness does not really diminish. You simply force it out of your mind temporarily. When you start dwelling in it, your feelings only become stronger. You slip into depression. Your spiritual task is not to escape your loneliness, not to let yourself drown in it, but to find its source. This is not so easy to do, but when you can somehow identify the place from which these feelings emerge, they will lose some of their power over you. This identification is not an intellectual task. It is a task of the heart. With your heart, you must search for that place without fear. This is an important search because it leads you to discern something good about yourself. The pain of your loneliness may be rooted in your deepest vocation. Your loneliness may be revealed to you as the other side of your unique gift. Once you can experience in your innermost being the truth of this, you may find your loneliness not only tolerable, but even fruitful. I think a true thing is that loneliness is unavoidable. But instead of running from it or running to it, which in both of those cases we give it power over ourselves, if we sit with it and start asking questions about what is it telling me, we can let it speak to the needs that we require. You probably know of someone, if not you, who is running away from their loneliness. Or you know someone who's convinced themselves they are unlovable, and so they get so withdrawn within themselves they cannot hear those around them. Those are unhealthy responses to loneliness. Allow it to speak to you. And as that book said, it may be rooted in your deepest vocation, your deepest purpose or passion or calling in life. Thus, your loneliness then reveals to you your new unique gift as its other side. Perhaps you feel lonely because you don't feel others value your voice. Okay, let it reveal to you that maybe you need to speak up for yourself more and take charge more of your voice. Or maybe you find yourself going from relationship to relationship, not feeling appreciated or understood, and you desire to be known, you desire to be seen and loved unconditionally. That is a very beautiful thing that your loneliness can reveal to yourself. And so maybe you need to wait for someone to do that and to see that and to pursue that in you without you having to try to force that upon someone. Our loneliness can speak to our innermost needs if we sit with it and we ask it questions and we try to find the source. And so here we are at the end of the episode and we sit with ourselves. And sometimes we don't like ourselves. Sometimes we feel unlovable and that we deserve to be lonely. That's not true. You don't. But it's okay to feel that way sometimes. But let's not stick there. Let's come out of it. Let's choose to believe and to bring into ourselves some words of positive affirmation because we deserve positive things. And as a response to this belief that's really hard for us to get to sometimes, we decide to look at ourselves as a reflection of a mirror and we say something positive to ourselves in an act of faith that rewires our brain as supported by neuroscience. And when you find yourself a reflection of yourself and you look into your eyes and you may feel lonely, that's okay. You can deal with it. You are built to deal with it. And you are not alone. See yourself and say these words to yourself. I can listen to my loneliness and allow it to reveal my needs. Friends, don't run from it. Don't numb out. And don't get caught up in it. Don't get pulled down by it. In actuality, you're not alone in these feelings of loneliness. You are not the only one feeling this way. Sit with it. One mantra my friends and I use is the only way out is through. Loneliness is unavoidable. It is inevitable. And the best thing is, it is usable. You can use it to learn about yourself and what you need. And you are deserving of those needs. But that belief is a decision you have to make for yourself. It starts with you.